We're making 3 more of my favorite Christmas sides. We've got pigs in blankets, creamy cauliflower cheese, and stuffing. This can be used as a side dish or to stuff your protein. Let's get straight into it. Now for the first side of the day, it's pigs in blankets. We're going to need 12 pork sausages and 24 rashers of streaky bacon. As for the bacon, just overlap them slightly, place a sage leaf in there, and then we can add on the sausage and just gently roll this out. We're going to do 4 of these with the sage leaves, and then the next one is going to be rosemary sprigs. So same again, just lay out 2 rashers of streaky bacon slightly overlapping, add on the rosemary sprigs. I recommend just a small little pinch in each. Place on the sausage and then just wrap up nice and tight. And the last one's going to be thyme, which is the exact same process. These can then be placed onto a baking tray lined with parchment paper. Place them into a preheated oven at 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to bake them for 15 minutes just for that bacon to start browning. In the meantime, we can make our herby honey glaze. What I have here is 1 sprig of rosemary leaves, 1 sprig of thyme leaves, and 2 sage leaves. Just add all of them together and then really finely chop them. Just make sure that there is no large leaves or stems in there. Then add it to a bowl and follow that up with 2 tablespoons or 40 grams of honey. You can slightly heat it up just to make it a little bit more runny, as well as adding in a pinch of salt, as well as some ground white pepper. Then get in there with a spoon and just mix everything until it's all evenly combined and it smells amazing. Going back to the sausages that have been baking away for 15 minutes, that bacon is starting to release a lot of its moisture and starting to brown. Just place these onto a heat-resistant surface, then using a pastry brush, grab that honey glaze, and we're just going to brush that over each individual sausage, just trying to get everything coated in it. You can also flip them over if you want to, and this is going to add the most amazing flavour to these and also help them caramelize, getting that nice crispy bacon. Once you have that done, transfer them back over to the oven at the same temperature. We're going to cook these for about 6 to 7 minutes, not 67 minutes, just until that bacon's really caramelized and that sausage is beautifully cooked. Then we can remove these from the stovetop and just let them sit for about 5 minutes. Let's then serve these up onto a platter on a plate in bowls, however you want to do it. Make sure you stack them nice and high, and that right there is our pigs in blankets. Moving on to the second side, and probably my favourite one, we're going to need 1 large cauliflower. Just slice off any of the leaves and you can discard or use them in a soup. Just trim this up, trimming around that root, trim these into even sized florets, that way they'll cook at the same rate, and you can also use the stem, it's perfectly fine, it adds a little bit of sweetness. Add all of those into a large roasting dish like the one I have here, it's probably about 30 centimeters in length. Then we're going to drizzle over about 1 tablespoon of olive oil just to get that nice and coated up. Hit it up with a little bit of salt to taste, as well as about 20 cracks worth of pepper. Then just mix this around with your hands, making sure everything's evenly coated. And with that done, we can transfer this over to a preheated oven at 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to roast this for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until the tops are lightly charred. In the meantime, place a large saucepan over a medium-high heat. Add in 100 grams of unsalted cubed butter. We're going to mix this around, just allowing it to melt and just come to a slight boil. Then add in 50 grams of plain all-purpose flour. What we're going to do now is mix this around gently for about 2 minutes to cook out the flour, just until it starts to form a thick paste, which is called a roux, and it's spelled R-O-U-X. Once that's done, add in 420 milliliters of full-fat milk. Continue mixing and cooking this for about 2 to 3 minutes, just until it thickens up, and I recommend swapping over to a whisk for this part. And once you have that done, you can then add in 420 milliliters of thickened cream. I'll have a note in the description if you don't want to add that much cream, it's completely fine. And we're also going to grate some fresh nutmeg in there. I recommend about 1 teaspoon's worth, and then season it up with salt and ground white pepper. Also, the reason I use ground white pepper is just because I don't want any large chunks of black pepper through this. Anyway, once you have that done, whisk this all together until everything's combined. Check it for seasoning one last time. Remove it from the stovetop. Then we can transform this from a bechamel to a mornay and grate in 120 grams of matured cheddar cheese and 80 grams of Gruyere cheese. Mix this all together until everything's combined. The cheese might not be fully melted at this point, that's completely fine, but you'll have a silky smooth sauce. Then we can remove that cauliflower from the oven. Just be careful because it can create quite a bit of steam that can come straight out at your face. Place this onto a heat-resistant surface, and then just pour over that Mornay sauce, trying to cover every single area. You can use a spatula just to help it out a little bit, and it's okay if a couple of little florets are popping out the top. They'll just get charred and add even better flavor. I also like to grate over some more matured cheddar cheese over the top. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but who doesn't like that cheese skin on top? And the amount is completely up to you there, by the way. Then transfer this back over to the same temperature oven. Stop checking out my legs. And we're going to roast this for about 35 minutes, just until that top is beautifully golden. Then remove and let cool for about 10 minutes. before we can then scoop this out, you have that beautiful silky smooth sauce. It looks amazing, it smells amazing, and it's absolutely delicious. Now last but not least, we're making sage and onion stuffing. What I have here is 220 grams of fresh white bread. I've cut off the crusts. I'm going to blend this up on a high speed to make fresh breadcrumbs. Just pop this aside. Then we're going to need 3 large brown or yellow onions. Just dice these up into small to medium sized pieces, trying your best to make sure they're the same size. Also trimming off any excess flesh from around the root, which can be saved for a stock. Next is 3 cloves of freshly peeled garlic. Just slice these as thin as you can. You can also chop them as well as grate them if you wanted to. And last but not least, we're going to need 12 fresh sage leaves as well as 5 grams of flat leaf parsley. That can be roughly chopped. Just make sure there's no large leaves or stems. Now this is really easy to put together. Just place a large pan over a medium-high heat. Add in 110 grams of unsalted butter. Allow it to slightly melt. It doesn't need to be fully melted. Then add in all of those onions that we cut up before, along with salt and cracked black pepper, about 20 cracks worth. Then what we're going to do is mix this around and saute for about 5 to 6 minutes, just until the onions have absorbed most of that butter and they're nice and golden brown. Next to go in is the sliced, chopped or grated garlic, the sage and flat leaf parsley, and all of those breadcrumbs we did at the beginning. Just continue mixing this and we're going to cook this for about 1 minute, just until everything's absorbed, the flavors have become friends, and then we can remove this from the stovetop. The next thing to do is grab a small to medium sized baking dish, just grease it up with a little bit of unsalted butter. You can also use spray oil. Tip all of that sage and onion stuffing in there, just spread it out. You don't have to completely compact it either. Then we're going to place this into a 180 degrees Celsius oven and bake this for about 30 minutes, just until that top is golden brown. It has crisped up from all of those breadcrumbs and it smells and looks amazing. Then we can let it rest for about 5 minutes, and then we can dish this up, serve it as a side dish, or you can even stuff a protein with it. But that right there is our sage and onion stuffing, as well as our 3 Christmas sides. So that's it for another 3 of my favorite Christmas sides with the pigs in blankets, the cauliflower cheese, and the stuffing. There is only one thing left to do though, and that is of course, we can then dig in.